unfortunately, a lot of Muslims are like that. They cannot accept what has happened to them. They cannot accept loss, deprivation, sickness, trial, and you have to do that. And this is why it is so important to get the knowledge of Allah and to draw close to Him and to hold to Him, so that you know how to sail the ship, and you know how to anchor the ship, and when the storm comes, you know how to run the ship through the storm. And people who neglect their deen, for a lot of us, our deen is just a marginal thing we do, so that like we've got to go to Jama'ah, so just show up. You come in late, you can leave early, after they finish. And the important things in our lives are so many other things. My business, my orders, my backlog, my employees, my exam that's coming up, my marriage, my children, whatever. And those are false priorities. Your deen should be the number one priority. Your Lord should be everything. And then around that, you build the beautiful orchard of your life, with a blessed marriage. Again, as Imam Zayd says, that no supplication, is delayed. That is by God. That whatever you do by God is easy. Whatever you do by yourself is difficult. Anything you do relying on God is easy. Anything you do relying on yourself is difficult. So, if you know God in times of ease, like these times that most of us are in right now, then He will know you in times of difficulty. But a lot of people, they live their lives in negligence. They never learn their deen anyway. They don't know their Lord. They don't even know basic theology. They've never done dhikr. Maybe they don't even pray. And if they pray, maybe they're not awake in their prayer. And then when, consequences come, they are destroyed. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jal, to relieve us from that. And in the case of personal afflictions, because what I said were general words, then, I think it's good to know that personal situation and to talk with that person. And inshallah, may that person find people who can give them a good answer to that question. But pray, pray for the father. That I'm sure that the person does that. Okay? Nothing else? So I'm really happy to see you, and I'm happy to be here. I like what I see. I think that what's going on here is very, very dynamic. I like the other things I've seen in the city too, like the low tree. I haven't seen very much yet, but I will, inshallah. I hope to. But take this this blessing to heart, and keep it going. Keep it going, because it will grow. It will grow, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And in any case, we are doing this by Allah, inshallah. For Allah, inshallah. We're not doing it to compete with another organization, or to get that big building with the beautiful, landscaping. And no, that's not important to the people here. That I'm very sure of. And it's certainly not important to me. And our community that we build is in our hearts. Our hearts that are compatible with each other, and that respect and love each other. And out of that, the beautiful buildings and so forth, this will all come. This is beautiful. Look what you've done. Look how you painted it. Look at the signs that have been put up. It's just really, everything is well done. Everything here is well done. And inshallah, it will lead to better and better things. And pray for everyone here. Pray for Shaykh Faraz. Pray for Brother Nader. Pray for Dr. Banu. for Michelle Young, for all the people who work so hard here. And I know, all of you, a lot of you contribute as well. You're the ones who do a lot of these things. So inshallah, out of this good will come great good, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We're not interested in being on the front page of the newspaper. We're not interested in, advertisements everywhere and so forth. Let the people come and benefit and bring more. And nothing affects like direct personal contact. We live in an age of media where we think that to get over, we've got to get in the media. And often that's not true at all. And in fact, for the media to work for you, you've got to put lots of money in it day after day, because the media is so trite and it's so cheap, really, that you don't remember anything you see on it. How many times have you watched the news and then you could write down after you watched the news what he said? It just came in one ear, one in another. That's the nature of the beast. And it creates impressions, emotions, political contexts. It has an agenda. But it's very difficult for you to compete with it, especially if you want to do something profound. But when you want to do something profound, the best way to do that is one-on-one, day after day, week after week, as Shaykh Faraz Rabbani is doing. I will teach you this week after week, month after month. We come together and then we are transformed. One of the sheikhs of Al-Azhar asked a friend of mine, how do I teach the truth in sound bites? Now, there's some people that have the gift to do that, like Malcolm X. Malcolm X is the master of communicating powerful messages with sound bites, metaphors, and things like that. That's a gift. And that's a precious gift. But, a lot of people don't have that gift. And our deen is profound. Our deen, requires thought, reflection, a heart that's open. And it requires you to be active in acquiring and in applying what you learn. And these are not things that are taught, in an impressionistic way or with sound bites or just in a few minutes. These are things that take cultivation. Day after day, week after week. And that's the idea here. There are so many good things happening in Canada and the United States. Soon we'll have the RIS. I was told that their enrollment this year is already much larger than it was last year at this time. And last year they had a good turnout. So inshallah this year they have a good turnout. Now that's really wonderful to have so many people there. And inshallah they will benefit tremendously, from the good that is presented there. And from the retreat that takes place after that. But that, and other forums that are similar to that, they create sparks. And they often change people's lives. And they bring people to life. But in order to build a community that is truly dynamic and that becomes a vanguard in the society and that creates the kind of society that you want for yourself as a grandparent with grandchildren, and that is a benefit to the society at large, and that can bring people in to God's religion, then we have got to begin to work one-on-one, day by day, week by week, and to do what we're doing and gradually to begin to do more. Like, for example, take care of the homeless. That's a very good project. It's a fard kifaya. It's a societal obligation. If we don't do it, we bear iniquity. We bear a degree of iniquity for that. When we do it because none of you truly believes if he goes to sleep satiated and his neighbor is hungry, and those are neighbors. None of you believes until he loves for his neighbor what he loves for himself. Sahih Hadith, which many believe is a commentary on none of you believes until he loves for his brother or sister what he loves for himself. Because who is your brother? Any human being. And that's what Imam al-Nawawi and other great commentators say, and they base that on their knowledge of the deen, and also like on the hadith of the Jawab, because it's the same hadith. None of you believes until he loves for his neighbor what he loves for himself. And the Prophet's neighbors were Jews and Muslims, and maybe even in the beginning, people who hadn't embraced the deen yet, who were mushrikeen, who were animists, people who associated idolaters. But the neighbor has a right, and the Muslim neighbor has a greater right, and the Muslim neighbor who is your kinsperson has an even greater right. But the rights don't abrogate each other. So when we begin to do these things, inshallah, selecting pilot projects that are strategic and beneficial, then inshallah the community will begin to grow. And then you'll create a community that will be maybe a crutch for you if you need a crutch, because maybe you get sick, maybe when you're older you need help, and that will also take care of you, take care of your family, take care of others, and begin to bring this deen to life. So that it's not just 5 prayers a day at the mosque, and Jama'ah, and Taraweeh in Ramadan, but it becomes that, and then the whole culture, and the whole beautiful society, the whole civilization of Islam that grows up around that, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. May Allah give us tawfiq. May Allah give us tawfiq. And always, this is freedom. That, can I do that? Do I know how to do that? Do I have the ability to do that? Absolutely not. No. Impossible for me. Does my Lord know how to do that? Does my Lord have the knowledge and the wisdom and the power to bring that about? Absolutely. So we just do the best we can do. Step 1, step 2. And you might call them baby steps. But after baby steps come giant steps, little by little. And you can't climb a mountain until you take a single step. So inshallah, Allah enable us, to be content with what He has willed, and may He enable us, to use whatever gifts we have to make this work. And again, we have got to be generous people. We have societal obligations. One of the biggest problems with Muslims today is that we come to an understanding of our religion as just private, personal obligations. Fard ayn. You prayed your 5 prayers. You're cool. You pray your fast of Ramadan. Mashallah. You made Hajj. You're off the hook. No. Those are personal obligations. You have societal obligations. And societal obligations are the heaviest. Fard kifaya. Any societal obligation, and the societal obligations are everything this community needs to flourish as a dynamic Muslim community and to take care of the needs of ourselves and our neighbors. Every time we fail in a societal obligation, for example, look at the way the chickens are being treated that are being slaughtered that never saw the sunrise. Look at the cattle, who are brought up in stinking stockyards that smell with stench to heaven and are never allowed to graze. And they're not even allowed sometimes to eat hay or to graze on grass which they were created to eat. And they eat things like corn which they were not created to eat. And in Islamic law, you can't do that. You must feed the animal what it was created to eat. And you must let it graze if it's a grazing animal. Otherwise, you have no right to that animal. They're not mushrooms that you grow in the dark. So what about those chickens? What about the sheep? What about the goats? they have rights. We don't eat pigs, but pigs are created by God and they have rights too. You know, we cannot be content in a society in which pigs are also treated like that. Pigs have a right to live on their own, you know, and Christians can raise their pigs, but raise them decently. And we should call them to do that too. You know, so these are societal obligations. And when we fail in a societal obligation, every one of us is atham. That's basic usul al-fiqh. Every one of us is iniquitous. Even the beautiful brother or sister who prays all night and who has memorized the Quran and lives the Quran, he is iniquitous too. Because what about the poor in the street tonight that are freezing? You didn't do anything. Your community didn't do anything. If the community begins to do something, then he's not iniquitous anymore. His prayer will be accepted. A lot of times the Muslims are like, what's wrong with us today? Why don't we get anything? You know, we hear things happening in our countries. May Allah guide them. It's like, no human being would do that. No human being with, you know, a mustard seed of intellect would say such a stupid thing. And yet we do. You know? And it's like, what's the secret? One of the secrets behind that is that we do not do societal obligations. We don't do them. We don't care about them. Look at our schools in many Muslim countries. Pitiful. You know? Look at the way that we teach Quran. We just have kids parrot it. They don't know what they're saying or anything. And he'll be a hafiz, you know, who's leading the side. He doesn't even know what he's reciting. He couldn't even give you a tafsir. It's like, yes, it's good you start them like that as children, but you take it further. Teach them Arabic, you know, and teach them to recite beautifully. And, you know, if people get tired listening to Quran that they don't understand, maybe you could teach them too. And maybe you could just shorten the prayer. But don't butcher the Quran and recite it on steroids. And this is not right. This is an insult to God and His Prophet. And this is our culture in many places. It's our culture. You know, the hafiz they want is the one that can finish the surah as fast as possible, so that they think they get the reward of the surah without paying the price. This is idiocy. This is idiocy. This is transgression. This is culture gone wrong. And culture is very important. We will talk about it, I guess, tomorrow. But, you know, culture has to always be cleaned up too. Because you get these cultural developments that are just insane. Insane. I was in India. I heard, you know, the brother came and said, I'm Hafiz, and I'm going to lead the Taraweeh. And after the Imam led Isha, I thought, Alhamdulillah. Because the Imam who led Isha, I didn't know what surah is right. Just like that. You know, he recites so fast. You know, as if it were a race. And then the Hafiz gets up, he's twice as fast. Qaf! And he recites your Qaf. I know that because he said Qaf at the beginning. I didn't get a single verse. And he thinks that's cool. That is not. I was so angry. You know, I was so angry. And, you know, a Shaykh was with me and he said, calm down. Okay, he said, you know, if we want to be of any benefit here, you know, we cannot, you know, you just leave them alone for right now. You know, that this is a culture, this is developed, and you can't change it like that. You know, but inshallah, Allah enable us, you know, to do the deen, no shortcuts. You want to take a shortcut? Satan can show you a lot. You know, Dr. Jackson told us in the pilgrimage about, you know, a book that he had read as a youth, in which this gangster who takes people to the laundry is asked one day by one of the people who helps him that, don't you feel any guilt? And the gangster, I don't remember what he says exactly, but one of the things he says is that, look, I can't take anybody to the laundry who doesn't want to take a shortcut. In other words, they want to get what they're not supposed to get in a way they're not supposed to get it. He said, anyone who wants to do that, I can take them to the laundry and I don't have any qualms of conscience. He said, people who want to be straight and do things right, he said, I can't do anything with them anyway. And the Satan's the same way. But a lot of us Muslims today, it's like, can't we get this deen down to 20%? I mean, why do we have to do 100%? That's so hard. And like, why in our madrasas should we teach a lot of things? Let's just get a curriculum that turns out these clones, who really don't know anything, but they've memorized a lot, and they cannot apply it. That's not right. These are shortcuts. Let's do it right. Let's learn how to teach correctly. And let's build a community that, inshallah, provides great guidance. And have people, and again, you see, Islam spreads on the periphery. It spreads wherever Muslims are converting non-Muslims. Because in order to do that, they've got to learn to make sense of this religion. And then they know it themselves. You can go to a lot of Muslim countries. You don't have to know anything about gender in Islam. You don't have to know anything about, banking or finance. You don't have to answer any difficult questions, right? Because they'll never be asked. You come here, you've got to answer the questions, right? Like, what does this verse mean? What does this verse mean? Or, what is Islam's position on evolution? In some countries, if you ask that question, you might get hit. They might throw something at you. It's like, astaghfirullah, how do you ask that question? You've got to ask that question. And we have a right to ask those questions. But, we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give us understanding and to open our hearts and to enable us to build something really beautiful. And quality is what counts, not quantity. Quality is what counts. Create, a nexus. Create, a hub of people who are really good. And then it will grow. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala.